All right. I think he's ready to go. And with that, your 6-time world champ, along with now 5 or 6-time throw down the mountain champion, Paul McBeth.
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Yeah, you sound great.
We can. How you
Perfect.
doing?
I am doing well.
All right. Well,
over
as we go ahead.
I was just gonna say I made it over to somewhere with Wi-Fi. So
Yeah, Hannah stated that she took no responsibility for the technical setup that you guys previously had, and so we appreciate that you guys made the dedicated effort to go jump on and get something a little more sustainable.
She's a professional. I listen to the Party podcast every week, and they always sound great.
yeah, this is her mic, her setup, her laptop.
Mhm.
We are over at Jordan's, which is Nick Carl's girlfriend's house, so might look familiar in the background and stuff. I think he's done a podcast or two.
I've never been in Nick Carl's girlfriend's bedroom. Sorry, no, Nick.
His podcast.
I was just thinking, I've been a lot of random places, but I don't think that's one of them. All right. No, we do appreciate. Yes,
Thank
of
you.
course. You guys both, you, Nick, and the rest of the crew, all of you guys constantly in high demand. And in all honesty, I don't think this is something that's surprising to you, Johnny nor I were able to take the time to listen to Nick and Matt last week. So any given questions that may or may not be, repetitive or redundant, we apologize, kind of, sort of. But first of all, congratulations on the weekend. You and I didn't even really talk about, well, how do you feel like your play? How did what grade would you give your play on the weekend?
Probably like a B plus. I think I was having like I'd get on a good stretch of holes, especially on the front nine. I would start out, getting one every time. Two, I think I got every time. Three, I put my drive pretty much where I wanted. 2 out of 3. Um, but the front nine, I was playing really well, and then the back nine, I don't know what it was. I just kind of lost control of either my drive or my putt. So I don't feel like I put together an entire round. The first round I could have, minus those bogeys, but you know, I was playing solid. I was getting a lot of birdies, but I don't know. It never felt like I had a complete 18 holes put together. So I know that course is tough, but I just felt like I had more in me that I just couldn't get out. So
Yeah, and you kind of made me look stupid. I
not
was
hard.
I was talking about your putting, and I felt like it, especially in the early goings, it looked really solid, really confident, and then it was maybe even shortly after I said that it just then seemed to be a bit off. I felt like you were largely high on some of your putts, either high or left. Anything that you were noticing or thinking about, or was it just they just weren't dropping?
I think they just all start to get to circle two. I think my shots just seem to get further and further away from the basket. So they're all circle two bids. I don't feel like I miss inside circle one that often. Even there, um, it's just when you get to that 35 to 40, 45 is when they start to, like you said, tend to be a little high, chaining out left. Um, and I feel like those are the ones that I just get too many of them in a round. I need to stay focused and keep my drives and my upshots closer so I don't have so many of those, because it does look like I'll miss a lot of putts throughout the round because there are, potentially 5 or 6 of those putts at that length.
And when you go to an event like this, now clearly you've for a decade have been largely the favorite when you go to a tournament, but when you go to an event like this and the next closest competitor is a full 20 or 25 ratings point behind you, is there ever any form of I mean, I know you don't want to take anything for granted, but is there any kind of comfort in that whatsoever?
No, not necessarily, because I know when I was in their shoes, I was showing up to the tournaments ready to win, and I know my first tournament ever as a pro in 2007. I was, I think, 970 or maybe 990 at the highest, and I ended up going out and beating a player that was 1027, I think, at the time. On a course that wasn't too much different. We were at Wrightwood out there in California, and I won my first professional tournament. Where I shouldn't have. So, um, it I have to still play well in order to win these tournaments. So, I mean, you're talking about kids that are 1015 to 1025. You know, it's not someone that was 970 or 980 back then. So it's a big difference, I feel like.
Yeah, talk a little bit about that, because Johnny and I were just, as we were going through some of the results from this weekend, and I said so many of these guys I literally just met or got to watch play last weekend in Tallahassee. I think of Braden Sides, I think of Dylan, I think of the Sullivans and all of those types. Talk about some of the games and maybe what you're seeing in some of these younger players right now, or these newer players.
Yeah, they're all very talented. Backhands, forehands, putting. You know, they have it all, and they enjoy disc golf to where they're going out and they're experimenting with all these shots and they're drilling them and getting better at them. The final round, it was like you said, Braden, Joey, and Sullivan, and I was the oldest by I think 11 years or something. Sully might
At
have been the
least.
second oldest at 21. So I mean, you know, they're 19 to 21, I believe. So that was the lead card at A tier. Um, it's not often you see that or hear that. So that yeah, I mean, I played with a bunch of talented players, and like I said, they're all getting good and they're pushing each other because I mean, if I wasn't there, it would have been those three battling, you know, for that win. So I mean, they were still battling there, but I'm saying it would have been those three in a tight battle. And yeah, I mean, like you said, they were at Tallahassee last week. They were here, and who knows where they'll be playing next week. And I think we'll see a handful of them at Champions Cup as well.
Yeah, and I
So
think also I was kind of looking ahead. I think Huck Central is where we might see a few of them. I feel like a couple of them are registered, and now I'm excited that I already know them because I'm kind of anticipating a few of those guys to be on some kind of lead or feature card, you know, for that A tier that's coming up in roughly a month. So,
I think they're
so
from
talented.
Yeah, I think one's from Alabama, one's from Georgia, and one's from South Carolina. So I mean, it's not like those were their home courses or anything. So they're traveling and showing up and playing well.
Yeah, and the only thing that I forgot to ask you during the interview immediately after you had won is, do you from? I mean, he went and won in a different state and gave you the opportunity to win here in Florida this weekend. Do you need to thank him for not being there or anything?
Hey, Hannah, you guys on the Wi-Fi?
You're good.
Sorry, I lost it.
Oh,
we're good now.
Okay. I was just asking if because Orem won again, City of Mobile championships. He always wins in Alabama.
28 straight years on the podium.
Yeah,
is what I think I heard. 28
straight events, maybe not years.
I thought it was years, but
no, he's only 35.
He's been playing since he was 7.
Okay, maybe. Either way, do you need to thank Orem for not showing up? I mean, he gave you a chance to win this.
Was he on the registration though?
He was at one point.
Hey, to be fair though, Matt Orem is on a lot of registrations because the weekend of Tallahassee, he was also on the registration for Texas State.
Yes.
So he might be registered an event in California, Idaho, because he's not sure where he's going to be.
That's true.
Yes. I mean, I should have given him a shout out. I didn't even think about it. I actually didn't even look at the registration beforehand. I should have.
He was. I know at one point he was absolutely registered. Yes.
He was supposed to go to South Florida Open over the winter, and he didn't go. So that's one.
Yeah, he had to go to Disney World or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
At any rate, you've had success, of course, here. The only time you lost actually was a late fall event. It was called Monster on the Mountain. Same idea, except for it was held in October. Heimberg bested you, I think, just by a single stroke, maybe two. How much of this course is going to look different? Because now everybody really has paid attention to what's there and what has been played. How is it going to look different when somebody comes out there a year from now?
Well, I'll start from the beginning. Parking lot. We'll have an actual parking lot. Whether my guess is it'll be gravel.
Okay.
So there won't be these little rolling hills and stuff that you'll have to park on and hope it doesn't flood. So that'll be our first thing we want to do. There'll be a pro shop. My goal, all right, these are all my goals to have done by next year. A pro shop. Let's see. And then as far as those are the two things I really want to do. and who knows? I would really love to get some pickleball courts somewhere on there, just because that's actually where I just came from. So there's a lot of touring players playing some pickleball. So that'd be a fun little activity. Maybe the Pro Tour will get some videoed matches of us all playing each other. But let's see. As far as the course though, just some like I'd call them like tour pads. So like 1, 2, the ones just off the top of my head. 1, 2 would go a little bit longer. 4 would go longer. 5, that's the last time we've played that hole in competition. So goodbye to 5. So there'll be a new hole for 5. 6 will get a little longer. 7, the basket will get a little longer. I really like 8. 9, I really like. 10 will get a little longer. 11 would actually get shorter. I don't like that as a par 4, even though I parked it on that video. It looks really cool. I mean, if I throw it and hit one of those trees, I still get a long look at it. Pretty easy birdie.
So you want to shorten it and then make it a par 3 probably, right?
Par 3.
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
Yep. Clear out a little bit of a hyzer line on 12 and maybe move the basket a little bit more further left. 13, I really want to make a tour pad. I think I showed you, Terry. Really cool spot. What number are we on? 14. 14's a great hole. I liked where it was this year.
Okay.
Eagle would be earned.
Yep.
15, I'd move the basket a little bit. 16 and 17 I'd combine, and 18 is too iconic to change anything.
Sure.
And then so with all those comes new tee pads, so permanent pads. And I think some of the holes will have 3 pads, some of them will have 2 pads. And I would love to have pin locations, multiple pin locations on every hole.
Okay. Yeah, it makes sense. One of the it was a solid question that I got asked earlier today. I think somebody maybe commented on my YouTube channel was, is there any concern about the barbed wire fence that has always been there? It's been it's essentially a cow pasture or a cow grazing area for most of the year typically. Any changes on the fence? Are you worried or concerned about it, or replacing it, or taking it out, or anything like that?
Well, some of them, like if you're looking at 15, they have cows there and bulls, so like that's gonna have to stay there, with that one. But like I could see like hole 3, we could change hole 3 where that is,
Sure.
where the hole is, and then other than that, there's not. It could change, but the barbed wire doesn't really come into play on many holes besides really 15.
Yeah, maybe a little bit on the tee of 10 and also on the tee of 3. And or the green of 2 10. Possibly, but
and I'm not a big fan of where the tee of 10 is anyways, so that one's going to move a little bit, but yeah, there's not a whole lot of spots where the barbed wire should come into play.
Okay. And then the other question that I thought, well, is I don't know, promoting you being on the show tonight, I was thinking, have you guys talked about a name, whether it's for the entire property, whether it's for the course? Is there anything that you guys could see changing or branding or altering about the name there?
Yeah, we are definitely going to rebrand it. Give it a true name, because right now, people know it as Gran Canyon, the Canyon, throw it on the mountain course. It's got all sorts of names, but it's never like officially had a name. When they first started it with Greg Hosfeld, I think he called it the Gran Canyon.
Yep.
GRAN Canyon. But then as Barnett took over, it kind of shifted. So with Dylan and I, we definitely want to give it a name. And we do have a name already picked out, but we want to release that when we're ready to no exclusive. But we want to release that when we're ready to actually start opening up the gates and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, and just to again throw it out in case somebody missed it, you're currently you're working with Mike Barnett, and we're going to talk to him in a little while, so we'll go over that more. But you're working with him kind of in a short-term situation where he can essentially use the place for a few more weeks. But then your goal for playable, open to the public, pay to play or membership or however it's determined, what's kind of like a deadline that you're really shooting for the rest of the world to come play it and be on the property?
So I would love to do it by the winter. I think it could be done by the fall, but it's hard to determine when fall and winter is in Florida. They kind of blend together. So I'd love to have it done by the fall, because I'm gonna go like with Cactus Rock and Dylan's other course in Alabama. Like they have a lot of work to do. Like they're doing it from scratch. this is already a disc golf course. So I don't see us having to do a whole lot of work besides the parking lot and putting pads in. And we are going to cut in, maybe a couple more. Like hole 4, we're going to have to cut in the new tee box where we want to put it. 5, we have to cut in a brand new hole. Oh, and then actually, since we're combining 16 and 17, we're adding a hole between 8 and 9. So that one we're going to have to cut in too. So really only three holes and maybe like 4 or 5 tee boxes we have to actually cut in. So I don't see a whole lot of work on that side besides doing the tee pads and putting some sleeves in the ground, which is obviously work, but you can knock some of those out in a week or so. So I think it could be done by then, but we want to make sure it's completely ready by the time we actually open it.
And when you say tee pads, I always make I make my own assumptions, but when you're talking about tee pads, what are you guys leaning toward as to what those will be, materials and such?
Typically, I love turf, but I'm have to ask around in Florida if turf really works out. With it being that hot and that that kind of wear and tear. I don't know how turf handles that. So I need to ask that around.
Does the Jacksonville course have turf?
I was just thinking like over at New World.
Yeah, New World. New World.
Maybe. I think so.
I feel like they were.
I'm not sure.
That vaguely
I don't recall.
Springs to my mind, but
yeah.
And then
it's a little bit more north too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little cooler up there. But I'm gonna ask around and find out, and then see also with the property and whatnot what would probably be better to go with. But yeah, it's gonna be one of those two: turf or concrete.
And it's funny because I was thinking this during the final round of commentary with Nate Perkins, and Ray just asked on the board, do you, of course you're going to, make a few holes look a little bit different, but when it comes to things like Sawgrass on current hole 6, or really, I guess I'd say almost any hole, I think of the green of hole 14, which is a hole you just said you love, the par 5. Yep. Do you see yourself as trying to essentially leave it as it was this weekend, or do you think that there may be still additional trimming and or taming, maybe that's a word. Would you consider taming any more of the sawgrass that's in play right now on any given section of the course?
I mean, I think the sawgrass is like great bunkers for some of these greens because you can still go over them. You can go through some of them if you really want to. They are a pain, because they will cut you if you really jump into them. But I think they're great bunkers. And yeah, you can lose disc in them, and that kind of stinks at times if you just hyzer one in them. But I really like playing with the sawgrass and having it as that natural kind of bunker. But what's really cool is you can cut them down almost to like the little stubs, and they just it might take a couple of years, but they'll grow back. And it kind of reminds me of like Maple Hill, with their Christmas trees. They kind of plant them and they'll come back. They'll be up in a year, but it's sawgrass down here. You cut those things down, they grow right back up. So I think it's cool because you can kind of move some of these fairways with it, make them move different directions and shape it. And I think, like you said, 6, they cut that left side down, which I would like to let that left side grow back up and then cut the right side down. So it kind of makes more of that left to right shape, makes that second shot a little bit harder.
Okay. Yeah, and you have to understand. You have to figure with more people playing, some of that stuff might get knocked down naturally. So you maybe don't want to pull it back right away. Let it.
Johnny, I don't know if you've been in sawgrass, but you can't really knock it down.
Again, if this course is as popular as everybody says it is, it's going to get beat up. I mean, it's whether it's a little bit here or there. I'm just saying. Maybe don't cut it down right away. Let it see how it's going to act for a year, and then work, like you said, work from there. If you realize, like, no, it's not getting beat up enough, we do need to trim it back a little bit.
No, I agree.
I would say if you know that you're always looking to me for business ideas, so when the pro shop opens, you absolutely need to sell one-legged sets of protective guards and pants like Charlie Goodpasture.
Charlie Goodpasture.
Yeah, so that if you go in the sawgrass, you simply put on just one leg of these windbreakers or whatever. I don't know if he officially deems those like these are my sawgrass pants, but you have to have sawgrass pants. That should be a staple in that pro shop, and then all proceeds go to Charlie.
Yeah. I mean, It was a good move. It was a good move.
The one-legged. So if you didn't see it, Johnny, and I've seen him do this before. He did it on 8. Well, it used to be hole 6 now. Many years ago, he went into some sawgrass. He has a pair of windbreakers, essentially in his bag. And when he went in there on
it's a
hole
man
14,
after my own heart.
Yeah, he put the windbreaker on just one leg when he then stepped into the sawgrass. And
because if it was a sleeve and it wasn't actual pants, it would have worked a lot better. Because he had to use one hand to hold it up, kind of. So if you just do a leg sleeve, with the elastic on both sides, that's all you need.
All right. Yep. There's money to be made here. There is money.
Just 2 elastic sides and you're set. It's reversible.
I like
put your branding on it. You can put a little disc golf guy on there.
Okay. All right.
Sold.
Well, yeah. You'll be my first. You might be my only customer, my only client. But when these are sold in the pro shop, as well. And now, Dylan Cease, of course, he opened. We talked about that a little bit. Opened for the White Sox. It turned out to be a no decision for him back on Thursday night. But what were some of the conversations you guys had throughout the weekend as he was watching the entire world talk about the property he's half owner of?
Yeah. So he starts tomorrow, and I have some ideas to run by him. But I told him we'll wait until after he pitches,
okay.
and let him do his thing. But he was talking to me. He was waiting for your coverage, as you know. That's why he came out with it so fast.
Yep, just to appease Dylan. Yep.
Yeah. So he loved it, and he's like, I'm so hyped to see this place because he's only seen it on coverage, and as people know, coverage doesn't really do these courses justice. Not until you stand in face to face with this cliff that you got to throw 80 feet straight up a hill. You don't.
So
know
he
how
never
high
had been on the property?
like.
No, I was gonna say that's a lot of trust. I mean, I understand you guys are you guys are friends and business partners and other aspects, but to have you just call him and be like, "Hey, pal, I got a really great course. You've probably heard of it. I mean, you maybe even you've seen a few holes. You maybe not remember. Just trust me. Don't sweat it. You're probably the best pitcher in the league or top 5 right now. But so just trust me, brother."
Wow.
Yeah, to be honest, I don't even think he saw or recall seeing video until we already were putting an offer in. But
okay, so I'll follow that up and say, how public is the number or numbers that have been discussed? You've openly discussed those?
We said it on the Nick and Matt, but we paid $1.2 million for it. And that's a little bit more than we wanted to spend and what we initially offered, but I mean, realistically, when Dylan bought his other property, the Cactus Rock, he's paying probably double in building the course than what he paid for the property, to where this one's already a disc golf course. Sure. We're not really having to do that kind of work. We're not having to build the infrastructure, cut all the trees down, do all this, do all that, to where that's a lot of the money. The most we're probably going to spend is on the parking lot. Sure. And depending on how intensive we get with the pro shop, that's going to be a good expense too. But we don't have to cut much on the course, luckily, in the designing part. There's going to be small changes to the design, but I think through the 11 years Barnett's run this tournament, he's kind of found the best flow for the property. And I agree.
For just real quick, talking about Cactus Rock, that course is, as you said, kind of it is from scratch. Is it going to be pro tour caliber? Are we talking, I've heard mixed things. Is there gonna be enough room for spectators? Like, how is that gonna go? Because the few pictures I've seen, it looked a little it didn't look spectator friendly at that point.
Yeah, it was definitely, any pictures you've probably seen have not been spectator friendly at the time. There's a lot of work to be done, but he's got an incredible crew out there with the Williams brothers. And it's these 3 brothers who moved from Maine, and they started one of them moved down. The oldest one moved down to Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and started a landscaping business. And then his 2 brothers followed suit, and it's the 3 of them and some other employees. And they just they partnered up with Dylan, and now they love disc golf, and they're building a course out in Tuscaloosa. So,
great.
We're I don't know if it's public, but it is. It may be, but we're doing a Finding the Lines episode there, series, I should say. And Avery has gone out there with me, and he kind of shared some input on some holes and things like that. And he was telling me he's never seen a crew that's just never said no. They're like, no, we'll find a way to do this. And we just kept pushing it. So do I think it's pro tour caliber? 100%. And I think it's when you think of Alabama disc golf, this one really reminds so it's funny. I know I'm jumping story to story, but when I went there to the property and looked at it with Dylan, I told him this kind of reminds me of this course in Florida called the Throw Down the Mountain course. And it gives me some kind of W.R. Jackson vibes. And so, a few weeks later, he's buying, the Throw Down the Mountain property. So it's got bigger, probably 2 to 3 times bigger cliffs and stuff than the Throw Down the Mountain property. But unfortunately, we don't get to throw down them the same as you do in Florida. But you get to play on some and see them. Some of them are more visible than they are playable.
When you finally retire, in a lot of years from now, how many courses of yours are going to be on the Pro Tour? Is it going to be just like the Paul McBeth tour courses? And it's like, oh, cool. This, I mean, I'm only kind of joking because in golf, we see a lot of Arnold Palmer courses. We've seen like all these great designers that do this who were former golfers. Are you going to have 3, 4, 5 different courses that were designed by you? Maybe Pro Tour and Silver events, kind of? Is that your idea? Is that your plan? Or are you happy with just the two courses you have right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not a plan. I mean, it's not, I shouldn't say it's a plan. I mean, even Worlds next year is going to be in Lynchburg, and I had a hand in those too. So if these 2 got on, then yeah, technically there could be 4, but I feel like a lot of it just has to do with the land. I feel like the land's design it is just who can see it and who can kind of pull it out of the property. Because the Tuscaloosa one, when Avery went there, and as the work progresses, having an eye like Avery go out there and be like, hey, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? It kind of really opens it up. So, I can't take full credit on something like that, so it's a team effort for sure. But yeah, it'd be cool to have a lot of them, a lot of the courses. But I can tell you, I'm not designing the course to be like, oh, this is how I like to play disc golf. I want to design the toughest course that land allows. Sure. And that's possible, and the most challenging, because I hate saying it, but I feel like all these golf courses kind of take away a lot of shots that we used to throw in disc golf. But when you move to these private courses, you're seeing shots that you don't see out on tour. And for me, I feel like the power fairway is kind of gone. The power fairway shot, the fairway drivers are kind of starting to go away, which at first when you go to the golf course, it's kind of the mid ranges. Now the fairways are starting to disappear. So I think with these private courses and these designs that these players are allowed to do, you kind of see those pop up a little bit more. So I don't know. That's just my opinion, but yeah, we'll see. I think these private courses are where it's at.
I think you're right, because I've said for a few years now, I feel like some of our players are losing some touch shots. Everything seems to be power hyzer or power forehand. And then from there, then you use your approach disc or a putter to get under the basket. Yep. If it's a par 4 or another driver, if it's a par 5, we see a little bit of exception on that. I think Waco has a few still that are out there that I like, but I think you're right in that some of these shots that you and I, I'm kind of pointing to Terry, that Terry and I saw growing up, we don't see them nearly as much as we do now. So.
Yep. I mean, you see it with putting too. These baskets catch nearly anything. They prefer firm putts compared to the touch of the Mach 3s and even the chain stars back in the day. You had to come in with some speed control, and now you can kind of just hit them as hard as you want, and they catch a majority of them.
And when they don't, people complain. Oh, how did that spit? Yeah. Like, dude threw it 50 miles an hour from 25 feet. How do you?
Yeah, and it hit high left chain. Yeah, no, it makes perfect sense, Paul. I mean, if we're just going to kind of, if we bring it back and reword what you're saying is, you're getting older, and as you do, you want the courses to suit where you're skipping. Just kidding.
No, I mean, I there's plenty of understable discs for me to throw further. Okay. I think there's so many discs now that I can just, the older I get, the less stable I throw. I'm just throwing further.
Yeah. So let me.
We'll know when he starts going to 150 class.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. So much of the response for that park job on hole number 11. So much of the response was, "What? I wish I could flip a force like that," or "I wish I had a Flippy Force." Can we? Does that drive my point home more that sometimes in the bag videos are just effing stupid because you throwing like that force is probably stable still for a ton of golfers, and you're calling it a Flippy Force and getting it to turn the way you did. Like, not all forces are the same for that reason, right?
Well, it depends on what you say. So it's my most understable force. I'm not saying it's understable. It's my most understable force. So, it's not like if I was to go out there and just roll right over, I'm not calling it an understable disc at anything. It's just if you grabbed all my forces, that would be the most understable of the bunch.
Yes. And I guess it's just my point is so many people get really hung up on, well, yeah, McBeth has 5 forces in his bag, and just realizing your forces have a wide range of beatness. And I just think too many people get really hung up because you would never equate a force with turning one over. And then the way you threw that, A, you're one of the best throwers in the world, and B, it's your least stable force. That's kind of my whole point about why I hate in the bag so much.
Well, and you got to realize too, I mean, how fast do you think that disc is going down that hill?
At least 20 miles. Oh, 85, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, not that I'm throwing it that fast, but it's screaming down a cliff, just gaining speed. So
sure,
it's definitely going down that hill faster than I threw it. So that's definitely going to make a lot of discs understable.
So one of the other questions, which is very fair, if you had to guess, and I know you looked at a ton of property, you and I looked at a couple of the things, but if you had to guess, how much of the 63 acres do you feel like the course currently consumes? Is there a ton of unused property out there or not?
So I've been calling it, there's a big black hole in the middle of that course. It's not used. So if you look at where the tee box of 4 is, there's nothing from 4's tee box to 6's tee box, and from 5's tee box to like 5's basket to 6's basket. There's a huge hole in the middle of that course that's not used. So that's where I'm putting 5. The new hole 5 is in that big black hole, and then the new 9 will be in that similar hole. Okay. So I'll be putting 2 holes in this big area that's not used. And then I would say a lot of the property is used, but it's always hard to factor because the parking lot's so big.
Sure.
How much that acreage is. So I would say the course probably sits on 45 to 50.
Okay.
And then the parking lot's a big chunk of it remaining. And then there is another ridge, which we could make an insane spectating area from the top of the ridge up above like 14, 13, 12, and even 11. But we'll see what we want to do with that. We might make camping. Who knows what we can do. But it's not enough to build houses. There's no way you can build houses. But there's enough to do some things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But
I want to clarify because I think I kind of I blurted out or adamantly said I think it was last week in talking about all of this in general, as I said, there's not electricity and there's not water on the property. And you and Dwayne have clarified there is a well that needs to be redone. So there is, water to the property, so to speak. And then there is an electric line that is right near there that obviously would then have to get tapped into. So my point is that we haven't had running water or electricity on site. Clearly it can be added, and it's not as much of a lift as I thought honestly it was going to be, because I didn't realize that both of those were essentially dormant or available. But so that will be a little easier than I originally had said, thanks to your clarification.
And I've learned a lot about the property too. There was a house on the property. Like the VIP parking is actually the foundation from the house. Yeah. So we just park on a concrete slab, and that there is actually a tennis court, which is the putting green. So that was pretty cool to find out. And then, and it used to be a mountain biking before it was disc golf, and that's how it got discovered for disc golf.
And I think Ellen Widboom, who lives literally her parents live just like a mile and a half down the road, who graciously let me go over to their house and edit during the day. Ellen was talking about that very tennis court. And I think she was I think she said she was, got lessons from the gentleman that, lived there. So this kind of really beautiful meshing and melding that we've seen, of the property throughout the years. And now the fact that you're going to be taking things over there is just really cool because there's that history. You talked about 1.2 million. Is it public, the split that you guys have in your ownership? Does that matter?
Oh, we went 50-50.
Yeah, you guys are 50-50 on it. And then did you guys at all talk about the what that process was like in terms of, somebody else being interested in it and how that came about for you guys?
Say that again?
Did you guys talk at all about how there was basically another interested party that was looking at the property as well, and for a very different reason, right?
Yeah, so the background story of how we ended up with it was Mike Barnett was running, obviously, the Throwdown the Mountain weekends. He has 4 weekends, 4 tournaments throughout the 6 weeks that he rents it. I think he gets a 45-day lease from Suzanne, who is the former owner, and he would set that up through the county of Brooksville or the town of Brooksville. Mm-hmm. And that would basically allow him to run the tournaments. And I guess it was like week 2 of him running the events. It was pretty early February. Suzanne reached out to him and said that this guy was going to buy the property. And he came in with a really good offer. And that she wasn't looking really to sell it, but the guy just came and wanted to buy it. And, when someone comes and offers you a good amount of money and it's just land that you're not doing much with, you listen. So he was serious, and she was like, told Mike, and Mike was just kind of, surprised by it, and was like, wait, let me, if this was going to be the last Throwdown, I wanted to at least announce it and like get some time to plan it and let people know. So that was his biggest worry at the time. And then he just happened to reach out to me because I did a signing, I think, in November or December at Sun King when they opened their new store, mm-hmm. and was just like, hey, if they're ever gonna, sell it, just let me know. Like, I'd love to just hear a number and just hear, because it would be so cool if this was actually a permanent course. And so when Suzanne dropped that news on him, he reached out, and I said, well, yeah, just let me know a number. Because we're in the process of selling our house in Virginia, so I might have had a little bit of money, and found out that she gave us about 48 hours to come up with a realistic offer. And she didn't tell us how much the other offer was, and then we gave an offer, and she said, well, so-and-so is offering this. And we're like, okay, well, we're pretty far off. So I needed to find someone who was into buying courses at the time, which Dylan had just bought Cactus Rock. Uh-huh. And I said, hey, man, I know you're into things. You're a twin. You like to, you wanted to get a cat. You ended up with 2. Your brother wanted a dog. He came back with 2. What about 2 disc golf courses, Dylan? What do you think about this?
That's a sales pitch if I've ever heard one.
He said, he asked some questions, and we ended up throwing a number. She actually said, if you can offer this number, it's yours. And we said, dang, that's more than we want to spend. But we ended up hitting that number, and then that guy ended up offering $1 more, and then she was like, I don't know what to do. And so it was.
And you flashed
30
the
days later, we owned it. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
okay.
Yeah, we were like, I said, we're not going to get into a bidding war. So
sure.
So 30 days later, we were the owners. So we actually owned it, I think, 2 weeks before we actually announced, or maybe 2.5 weeks, I think, before we announced. But we were trying to keep it a secret until the pro weekend, but people started finding out. So
yeah, well, I mean, you're not the best at keeping secrets, right?
Well, so what's funny is when we became the owners, our names had to be on the waiver. Our names had to be somewhere. So we said, put them on the waiver. No one ever reads those. So
I do.
People
read
read
my
the waiver.
bracelet. I got my bracelet.
Yeah. If people would have read the waiver, they would have known that we were the owners.
Okay.
About probably week 2, I think.
Let me teach you about shell companies, Paul. No.
Yeah. Now, clearly this is this is iconic property. It's historic, and it's got so many great vibes. And I personally overheard dozens of people saying, "Hey, thank you for buying this, thank you for making this happen." Dare I ask, is there a bigger end goal? I mean, are you guys concerned about the money it may or may not generate? Are you concerned about making money or breaking even or hosting, these top tier events? Like, when you think about the bigger picture, like, what's kind of the end goal to it?
I mean, of course, we don't want to lose money on it doing it. It's an investment for sure. And if I was going to invest in something, I want to invest in disc golf. It is nerve wracking. That's a lot of money. So it's, and like I said, if people watched the interview at the end of your video there from round 3, all these thank yous and all the congratulations, all that stuff, like it's so humbling, and I appreciate everyone, but I'm still looking at it like it's not done. Like, we haven't opened the course up yet. Like, I'll be happy and satisfied when we can actually, drop the name and open the doors so people can come and play and enjoy it, because so many people don't get to, because it is only open 4 days or 4 weeks out of the year. So yeah, that's when I'll be satisfied and happy with it and be like, okay, we got this rolling. And I'm looking forward to that, though. At the same time, it's nerve wracking, but I'm looking forward to it at the same time. Yeah. I mean, I hope it does well. I mean, I think it's really cool. It's a very unique course in Florida, and it's a very unique course in disc golf in general. There's not a property that I can compare to this that we play anywhere on tour.
Yeah, it is definitely unique for a lot of different reasons, especially because as everybody that's seen it for the last few years, it sticks out like such a sore thumb within Florida. And of course, it's not a real mountain. People need to like get over that. It's just a play on the fact, that it does have some of that hilly terrain and whatnot. So that's the first obvious thing, but it is unique in how it's laid out, especially with that surrounding area. Johnny was just talking about shell companies, so I've got I've got a great idea to lob up to you again. Another good one. You should reach out to the people at the Paul McBeth Foundation and see if it's an underserved area. See if they maybe would want to put a course in Brooksville here at this place that doesn't have disc golf like 48 other weeks of the year. I don't know. I'm just saying. The foundation might be able to help out there.
Well, we at least know that they have a very good history in putting courses in. I mean, they're very experienced.
Yeah. Yep. I'm just baskets. I know we're getting into a few of the trivial details before we jump over to Music City, and then we'll let you go. But baskets, other equipment, is that determined? Is that on your radar as a concern right now? Is Discraft paying
Mach 3s?
There you go. Okay, so Big Germ will be first to show up. I like it.
No, listen, I love it. Mach 3s, like you said, I'm a big fan of speed control with putts. So,
no, we'll. I think we'll go with not two sets of baskets. We'll go with 2 baskets per hole, but obviously they'll be Chain Stars.
Okay.
Chain Star Pros. So, yeah. So we'll probably do the two different color baskets, and then 2 to 3 tee pads. I don't know if we'll do 3 on every one, but some of them I definitely know we'll have 3 pads. So we'll see. So multiple layouts that you can play.
Go with the airborne method, and sponsor out holes. Get custom bands on it. For $4 or $5 I'm sure someone would buy a hole for 10 years. Good sponsorship.
Yeah.
All right, let's.
And we're definitely going with like the lifetime membership and yearly memberships and day rates and stuff like that. So trying to be unique with it, but let people feel like they have a piece of it as well. Because it is, this course is definitely bigger than Dylan and I. It's been around. It's not like the Cactus Rock where that's being created. This is something that has so much history behind it. So.
All right, so let's transition quickly over to just give us a Music City Open preview from your perspective. You headed up there yesterday, right? Yesterday? Did you get some golf in?
Today.
What'd you see?
I got in today. There was some weather. Yeah, there was some weather, and then accidents, and it took like 14 or 15 hours to get here. It was way longer than it should have been.
For what should have been 6,
8.5, 9 hours, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But course is way different. So I played it 2 years ago. It's completely different than 2 years ago. It's a lot more enjoyable. Hopefully the weather holds up. Like today was windy, but there was no rain or anything like that. It's fairly long. Lots of distance drivers. And my biggest complaint is that we're putting on the dynamic disc baskets. I don't know which ones, but they're all temporary, and they're the shiny chains ones. So the stainless steel ones. Yeah, so the veterans, the stainless steel chains, and then they're all temporary baskets, so they like cut through and spit out a lot. So I don't know if it's because they're not leveled, because they're all temporary baskets or whatnot. But that's just one thing that's my biggest complaint on the course. Like, it's not that hard to put sleeves in the ground. It's not, you dig a hole and you put a sleeve in the ground.
And I guess I'll follow that up with, this is otherwise a temporary course, right? This isn't, if you were out in that area 6 months from now, the course wouldn't exist. Is that correct?
I don't know much of the history on that or how it is. But I know it's just, you could literally put a bucket in the ground and dig a hole and then dig it up if you want. But yeah, that's my biggest complaint about them, is because temporary baskets just tend to spit more. I mean, chain stars, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Anything that's on a temporary one tends to, if it's not leveled perfectly, it'll spit. But it's always hard to judge a course when it was that windy out as it was today. But it is, like I said, a lot better than 2 years ago.
Okay, yeah, and to be fair, I feel like I saw a tweet earlier today from Ella Hansen, or yesterday, and she kind of echoed exactly what you said. She really enjoys it. She says it's clear there's been a ton of work, and this feels like almost an entirely different course, and that she was really looking forward to it. So it, I feel like it's safe to say it wasn't a favorite of players a couple of years ago, and so now I think it's going to be great to see the changes and everything else that you guys talk about. Do you feel like there's anything out of the ordinary? You obviously had I was going to say the weekend off. You really didn't, of course. But, back on the Pro Tour, Elite Series, all that stuff. Anything the disc golf world should be looking out for this weekend? Maybe that's the best way to word that question.
Looking out for?
Yeah, thinking about, not, what should we know?
I don't know any surprises this week. I don't know any inside stuff or anything that's going on. No, I don't have much from this week. I will say one thing that I have noticed is, like, we haven't had any concerts or anything this year, which is interesting. I feel like this would have been,
I think KJ's playing this weekend, but not
they are
Corey
having some
Wong.
music.
What's that?
They are having some music.
I heard I feel like I saw KJ post and say, hey, I think I'm going to be performing or doing something this weekend, or maybe he was just throwing it out there,
Nashville,
hoping that it sticks. But you're right.
This is the place where you should have some kind of live music going on. I mean, we're in Nashville. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that would have loved to come for free to perform.
Yeah,
put them on a stage.
A good question. Yeah, I can't say I know anything about that. I'm going to be hosting my first ever Tournament Central show this weekend, so I'm sure I'll be seeing some clips and some maybe even talking to you at some point. I'm not sure. We'll see.
I haven't seen any Tournament Central coverage yet. I feel like it just disappears. Like, you have to see it live or it's gone.
Yes, it'll be there for you this weekend. Me and Perks are gonna have it on lockdown, I think.
Okay,
we'll see. Anything that you or Hannah or any of your fans need to report back that me or Perks got absolutely wrong this weekend? Think
he watched the footage?
That's why I'm saying Hannah or his fans. Did anyone be like, you believe what Miller said? That idiot said blah 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 on this hole. Was there any major corrections that you and I should hash out right now?
I think I was 7 feet combined on hole 1, not 8 feet for the 3 rounds. I think you were off there.
You're fired, Miller.
Oh my! Johnny didn't see him yet. I'll show him after the show. You on hole number 1 was ridiculous. Yes.
Yeah, I had one. I wish if we could play hole 1 18 times, it would have been. Been a walk in the park, as the PDGA commercial said.
Yeah, you had that one dialed. That's for sure.
I mean, I think you guys crushed it with the coverage. I think it was very highly anticipated. And I think one, because Dylan and I bought the property, but two, it just happened to be a great off week. And there wasn't much coverage going on. People weren't consuming disc golf. So I think it was just, perfect time for everything. So if you haven't watched the coverage, go and watch it. It was very entertaining. And yeah, you can get a little preview of what the course looks like now. And then next time you see it, it'll probably have some tee pads. But I guess I do got to say with Barnett is keep up with Sun King, because he is going to open up the disc golf course, I think starting May around Cinco de Mayo. And he'll open it up for about a month and a half or something like that. So it'll probably be a similar layout as to what it is now. And this will be the last time you see it without permanent pads and such. So you might be able to get a sneak peek onto some of what these tour pads are going to be too, because we'll probably be doing the work at the same time. So go out there and support Sun King.
One prediction for tomorrow: over under 6.5 strikeouts for Dylan.
Who are they playing? San Francisco.
I have no idea.
Oh, I hope over for sure.
Right.
They're playing San Francisco in Chicago. Yeah, it should be over.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have 9 or 10 opening day?
10.
Okay.
He had 10.
Which tied a record of sorts, right?
It might have tied a White Sox record or
like a White Sox opening day record or something.
Something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And like if that was later in the season, he probably would have gone at least another inning and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But opening day, he's got a long season ahead of him, so I don't see him going more than 6 or 7 unless he's got a no going. But still might be they might still pull him. So who knows?
Final question. Then I took this one to Reddit today, which I don't often do, but I took this one to Reddit. So it'd be interesting getting your perspective. I worry that some of the coverage, you were playing with gentlemen that aren't known, that aren't well known nationally or internationally, all great guys. We already kind of actually gushed about how good they are. So this is no slight to them whatsoever. But I did pose the question to Reddit today, and I said, hey, I got the coverage out relatively quick, next day, every day, and it didn't get as many views. And this isn't me complaining about it. This is me trying to truly assess the situation. And I said, am I making a mistake by basically not just putting your face on every thumbnail? Because I kind of spread them all out. And I lately have been putting everybody on and splitting them up by twos. Am I crazy in thinking that? Is that something that anyone else should be offended by? What are your thoughts on that?
I think what I could see is just the tournament name. They didn't recognize it with the Pro Tour or haven't. So I could see, since it didn't have a picture of me, sure they might not have clicked on it, versus maybe the ones that did. But yeah, like you said, no slight to the other players because they aren't known there. But if you watch these videos, you'll see that they will be known soon enough. Well, I mean, I could see it being a little bit different, or like it could get fewer views because of that, because the Throwing on the Mountain is not a Pro Tour event. And then if you see Braden and Joey, you might not click on it as quickly as if I was on it, or if my name was on it, or if it said DGPT, Throw on the Mountain, whatever. Sure. Sure. I mean, I could definitely see that happening. But
yeah, I think I did that with you at Huck Central a couple of years ago when we filmed you, and you were the biggest name at that event. It was actually a very similar field in that sense. There was a couple of other really solid players, but I feel like that was my play. And I guess the question to the other guys would always be, hey, would you rather us roll the dice and possibly get, say, 70,000 views, with just Paul's picture on it, but you're in the video and there's 70,000 views, or you're on the thumbnail and maybe we're rolling the dice and it only gets 30,000 views.
That's why you do 3 and 3. You have Paul, the 2 guys, and then Paul, and then the other guy. Just have him every. It's like,
And to be fair, as some people suggested, all 4 don't really fit. It really looks good when there is just 1. 2 is fine. 4 gets really congested. So anyway, these are just random thoughts to try and make it better.
Is there a difference between the one that I'm in versus the one that I'm not in? Like front 9 versus back 9? Or
yeah, and that's always tough because back 9s almost always don't perform as well as fronts. Yeah. People get lost or sidetracked or lose interest. Or a lot of people just said, oh, I just assumed Paul was going to win.
Yeah.
That was a big conversation, but...
Yeah.
So, I don't know, but if I'm in that situation again, I think I'm gonna roll the dice on the idea of featuring our most prominent players. It just gets into a really dicey zone of like, well, who makes it, who doesn't, and then everybody gets mad and they say, well, you had him on the back nine, so I know who won. Well, there's a 1 in 4 chance you're going to be on one of the two thumbnail, right? Like,
don't fall into stupidity, Terry.
I know, but people
I didn't
say
click
that
the front 9. I only watched the back 9 because the thumbnail.
That's right.
Anyway, these are the dumb things I have to worry about.
Or just always put him on the back 9, and then
No, I knew you had him on the back 9.
No, I'm just saying then because you say the back 9 gets less views. At least then maybe it pushes up the back 9 to even it. I don't know, Terry. Either way,
put a picture of you and then our names on the side.
Some people did say that. Some people on Reddit. I don't think they were trolling or like, you really need to brand yourself and be out there more. I'm like, no, I don't. Nobody needs my picture on the thumbnail at all. I unequivocally shoot that idea down. I do not. If it doesn't involve me in front of a camera, then I don't have to have my face on it. So
I wonder if that's why Jomez went away from pictures and just do the weird little graphics now.
I mean, there's you literally could take a college class or a master's class
on YouTube thumbnails.
Like there's an unbelievable science to it all, and YouTube treats them differently, and there's been different things.
Can we get a shot of Paul just doing this? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because that's every YouTube video that I see.
Yep.
Paul McBeth shoots the mountain.
You'll never believe.
What happened to Paul McBeth? Huh? I don't know. Well, we'll keep figuring out. I'm sure Hannah's got this all figured out. She's not going to share all her secrets with me. She's super last quick thing officially is Paul McBeth Foundation. Give us an update.
Update. I was just on a call yesterday. We got 2 new people, which is cool. That means the foundation's growing and doing well. So we got more people there. And for me, next trip is to Spain. So that'll be when I head to Europe. That'll be my first stop. I'll be stopping in Madrid. And they already got the course in and everything. So they might already have a tournament, but it'll be the first time that I get to see it and be there. So it'll be cool to stop by there. But projects left and right. I know there's some coming up to be announced soon. But we were just going over that actually. While I was in Florida, I'm going over all that, so that'll probably be announced. But yeah, Paul McBeth Foundation. I know there's an auction going right now, or coming soon, so be on the lookout for that. You can go paulmcbethfoundation.org, or Instagram's the easiest one, in my opinion, to follow. But it looks like at least 4 or 5 projects this year.
Heck yeah.
But I guess there was supposed to be a trip down to Nicaragua with the team, but I forget what happened. The baskets still haven't showed up. Or they got stuck or something like that. So they didn't send the team. So Kevin Jones is supposed to be going on that trip when it does happen. Nice. So that one's just been a little struggle. But yeah. Just follow. I know that's going to be an announcement here coming soon about some projects here in the U.S. and then outside as well.
Great.
Heck yeah. Awesome. Well, I know the entire disc golf world appreciates and thanks you and your crew who are doing all the work on the back end to make all of those happen. It's almost crazy to think I'm even myself, like, just no longer do I even know where they're all happening because you've expanded and done so many of them that it's pretty awesome to see that your worldwide reach of your foundation continues to grow and thrive the way it is. It's absolutely awesome to see. So
have you guys had a chance to see the Montenegro video?
I have not yet. That was released on Jomez a few days ago. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely check that out. Okay. It's such a good like it's like a movie, to be honest.
Okay.
By far my favorite disc golf video that I've watched. I mean, I'm in it a little bit, but I know the story.
What are you on the thumbnail?
How it came about.
I didn't click on it. You weren't on the thumbnail.
Yep, I am the thumbnail.
Yeah. See. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so well produced, and
awesome.
It just. Yeah, incredible. So we look forward to doing that with more of these projects and just kind of sharing the story of how disc golf, that's first disc golf course in Montenegro. So
yeah,
to be able to share that story of who knows where disc golf goes in Montenegro, but we have that story of how it first got there. It's just really cool.
Yeah, clearly creating and building on that legacy of yours time and time again. I love it. All right. Well, we could talk for hours, even though we just hung out for half the weekend. But thank you for providing more additional insight for everything that's happening down there in Brooksville, as well as what you're thinking about this upcoming weekend. We wish you the best of luck. And like I said, maybe I'll be chatting with you at some point through Tournament Central this weekend. But best of luck to you.
Sounds good. Thanks, guys.
Thanks,
All right.
Paul.
See ya. Have a good night.
Yeah.